Hi, experiential learners. It's Steve. I hope that you're doing well. We're entering week number 3 of the semester already. It's hard to believe. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about the developmental stages of one's internship. And let's go ahead and get started with that. So there are 5 different stages that interns typically will go through to maximize their development, to maximize their success, their fulfillment, ensuring that it's a meaningful experience. So we already touched on the first one there, the anticipation stage. We're going to mainly focus briefly right now on the remaining 4 stages and how those might play out in your internship. So as I mentioned last week, I think I had a video or a PowerPoint or some slides related to the anticipation stage of your internship. Everybody, all of you have probably experienced this already. It's what they call the what if stage. So this is where you'll have an assortment of emotions, feelings, and reactions to becoming oriented to your internship. Anytime we start a new experience, whether that's an internship, a new job, or graduate school, there's going to be this indoctrination phase, or what we call the what if stage. Now, shifting gears, the second stage kind of relates a little bit to that what if stage. So this is the disillusionment phase. And this is where we start kind of questioning a little bit ourselves in terms of what's wrong with this experience. Looking at maybe you had this vision of what your internship was going to be like, and it hasn't perfectly kind of fallen into that vision yet. So the disillusionment phase is a typical normal period that you have to experience in order to achieve growth and development in your internship. We say there, you see there at the bottom, it's problems are necessary and an essential element of internship. As strange as that sounds, it cannot be further from the truth. Challenge that we'll talk about in a couple weeks, I believe. Challenge is so important in growth, in seeking out opportunities, in maximizing your development. So this is important. This is, although maybe a tough stage of an internship, it's so important. It's so vital to your overall development and well-being as an intern. Now, the word confrontation oftentimes gets a bad rap, and that's because we tend to avoid confrontation and conflict, not just in our work lives, but in our personal lives. So we've listed here some of the characteristics that are typically associated with the confrontation stage of your internship. You know, it's kind of the avoidance, the first one there, avoiding acknowledging any setbacks or crises that might be evident, diminishing kind of any kind of feedback that you might be receiving from your site supervisor. And if you recall from the syllabus, there'll be 2 points during the semester where we'll be formally asking for some feedback from your supervisor in terms of how they're evaluating your character, your performance, and your development as an intern. I want to just pull out here odds with a policy or procedure of the host site. You know, we all have ways of doing things and preferences in terms of how we do things. So it's not uncommon for an intern to actually find that there might be a rule, a policy, a procedure that doesn't really sit quite well with them. So again, it's that confrontation phase that kind of is leading us then into what we call the competence stage. And this is where we want to see all of you achieve this competence stage where you're really, you go from being an apprentice, I guess you could say, in your internship to being maybe a professional expert, I guess you could call it. And you see some of the values or terms or characteristics that are really represented in this stage, the competence stage. So the high morale, having a really valid and meaningful investment in the experience, you start to really trust yourself and your abilities and your skills and your competency level to perform effectively in the internship. You also, on the flip side, you also might be getting to the point where you're really hungry for more. So you might actually plateau at some point where you've achieved a certain level of competence and you might have fulfilled projects, you might have completed projects, you might have completed some of your learning objectives that you're mentioning in your learning development goal plan, and now you're hungry for more. So the bottom line is you want to really be emphasizing excellence, high standards over perfectionism. None of us are perfect and such. That really should be your goal with the internship. Holding yourself accountable or responsible for high standards. This is the stage that I kind of call this the unfinished emotional business of your internship. So at some point, this experience is going to conclude, right? There's going to be a culmination or termination phase. I shouldn't use the word termination. That could uh, you could think getting fired from the experience. We certainly don't want that. But the culmination phase is kind of bringing everything together. But along those same lines, there's some closure. There has to be some closure to the experience. So we've listed some of those closure factors here. The fact that you're going to have an assortment of a pretty wide range of emotions as the experience wraps up. But you're going to have a lot of key takeaways of your achievements. So taking pride in your achievements. You probably have read ahead that the final kind of the capstone project of this course is your internship mini poster and video, where that's where you're going to be really talking about your development, talking about your achievements, talking about your accomplishments as an intern, finding some satisfying ways to say goodbye to your supervisor and really your colleagues. Even though your experience may be virtual, you're probably still interfacing a lot with your host site supervisor, colleagues at your host site, and so forth. So we really want to make sure that you're recognizing them for the role that they have played in your personal and professional development. You should have a final evaluation meeting with your site supervisor to kind of do a final check-in of what were some of the peaks and valleys of the experience, the ups and downs. And again, they're going to complete a final evaluation on you as the intern, but I think it is also meaningful for the intern to really sit down with their site supervisor and kind of do a wrap up. That second to last one there, the learning, assessing learning. Oh, I really love when interns are able to articulate how learning took place, evidence that learning took place, and we're hopefully helping you with that in this course. So by the time that you get to this culmination phase, one of the items that I would say you should be able to do or be really excited about is stating how you learn. Not just telling me what you learned, but stating how the learning took place. What were the processes that you engaged in that resulted in that learning? What were the actions, decisions, or behaviors that you engaged in? And then finally, they're really shaping how the internship has, I'm sorry, reflecting on how the internship has shaped your career trajectory. You know, it's okay if you get out of this experience and you say, you know, I'm not sure clinical psychology now is the route that I want to go based on this experience. That's the reason for doing an internship. That's a really great reason for doing an internship, because you're testing out a career path. You're test driving a career path. And it's okay then if you've decided, oh, maybe there's some things that need to change now in my career goal. So some questions to ponder for kind of this week as we're talking about the developmental stages of internship, and not just this week, throughout the entire term, the semester, is what stage are you currently in now that we're in the third week of the semester? Have you moved from the anticipation stage, moved beyond that to maybe getting to uh, the confrontation stage, perhaps? Most of you are probably in those earlier stages at this point. Again, if you're still kind of getting orientated to the experience, that's perfectly understandable. Are there strengths that you already bring to the internship that you can use to navigate through the different stages? I love the term always resilience, and being able to kind of bounce back from setbacks and having kind of that growth mindset that you're able to improve in different ways. Are there personal traps that you can try to avoid? You know, I would say what we mean here by personal traps is negativity, doing that negative self-talk, kind of that fixed mindset of, oh, I can't improve, I can't develop, I'm never going to be able to finish this project effectively. And then, are there aspects of yourself or your internship you need to confront or change? So, you know, we always have to adapt to the environment that we're given. It's not always going to be perfect for us and our personalities, our values, our interests, our goals. So I do ask that you really think about that question in terms of, are there ways that you maybe need to be flexible, or are there ways that you can adapt throughout this experience to make sure that the environment person fit is there? So I hope this was helpful to you in gaining a little bit of a better understanding of the developmental process that an intern typically will go through. I also want to make a point to, there's a video I posted in this week's module, week number 3 module, on the 3 sources of intern fulfillment. And it's looking at things like work productivity, meaning engaging in meaningful work, utilizing your site supervisor, developing a real responsible relationship with your site supervisor, and so forth. So think about how these stages kind of connect with those sources of fulfillment and how they kind of relate to each other. As you go through the developmental stages, hopefully those 3 sources of fulfillment are going to gain some breadth and depth for you and such. So as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to email me and I'll do my best to help you out. I hope you have a great week.